Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the Schlage number 35-270 S000. This is a box of all-section Everest 29 key blanks is what it is. And this video is going to go over what the Everest 29 is in summary. Let's just simply take a look at this key blank. The 35-270 is literally an Everest 29 key blank. When you order a 35-270, it's going to be a key blank that's going to look like this. It's going to have all the features of an Everest 29, and 29 is because this is patent protected until 2029. What that means is legacy Everest cylinders of a C keyway, which the patent has expired, the 29, will allow a user to maintain patent protection over cylinders by upgrading those cylinders to an Everest 29 type system. There is a modification, there is an evolution, I should say, of the cylinder itself that will allow us to have that patent protection to 2029, and we're going to talk about that. Before we get to the particulars, there are several links below this video. In no particular order, we'll look at the cut sheet, and that tells us that the 35-270 is a S family key blank, and that will be distinctive because of the bow, this cut-through hole that's there. It's literally a hole that's been cut through. That's part of the marketing. It's part of the manufacturing of this key blank. The backside is plain. Okay, so the 35-270 will have a plain backside. That's actually nice because there's a lot of real estate to engrave on there should you need to put something on the key. We obviously don't recommend putting bidding numbers, but you're going to find opening tags or some other distinctive information regarding it. The less is always better when it comes to keying information. If this were to get in the hands of someone that ought not have the key, it might tell them information about the key that you may not want to have available. Exterior, pharmaceutical closet, master key. These are words that you may not want to put on there. You might want to look into cryptology or some sort of a blind code, or an indirect code, I should say, where there's a reference manual. If this has some sort of unique code on it, that there's a reference document to unlock what that is, that might be okay. But it is certainly a lot of area there for that. So that is the 35-270. There is a portion of lip removed from the conventional Everest 29 key to prevent the use in Primus XP cylinders. So this has some side bit cutting on it. I don't think it's called side bit cutting, but it's specifically machined so that this key blank cannot be used in a Primus XP type system. It also has a unique cut through here that we're going to go over in a moment. So you can have Everest 29 Primus XP is what the point is, and the fact that that side cut has been modified will prevent it from being used in a Primus side pin system. And that's the portion of the lip that's removed from the conventional 29 key that's here. The Everest 29 key is available with and without do not duplicate on the back. That can be ordered that way. And additional information, die stamping, serial numbering, etc. can be put on there as well. Now, the overview of the system is that the Everest 29 is patent protected to 2029 and as a result protects against unauthorized key duplication. These key blanks, Schlage says that they're tightly controlled. They certainly are. Only authorized distributors are going to be able to purchase them, which means that the purchase of these key blanks will have to be done through an authorized channel, in the sense that you're not going to just find these at any big box home improvement store for sale places like that. Your cobbler, he's not going to have these key blanks. Patent protection deters duplication of design. It's a federal enforceable patent, naturally. And the Everest 29 is available as open and restricted keyways, as both open and restricted, to give you a level of security for the application you require. This is the S family. This is an S000, which we're going to get into in a moment. That is an open family. It's not restricted at all. The benefit of the Everest 29 key cut-through technology enables a unique undercut key design, 20% increase in thickness for greater strength, and that the cylinder has a unique pin interaction which improves physical security on the lock. So the bottom line is, it's got a hole in it. That's what they call cut-through technology. They say that the key blank is thicker, and that the end of this key blank, that's actually a groove that's been cut in it and down through it. So my guess is that they, as a result of the tooling, they probably need to create that hole to get that tiny little mill cutter down through there to create that channel. They say, and in classic Schlage fashion, they will take a disadvantage and turn it into a major marketing advantage. It's 20% thicker. Sure, it has to be. Imagine having a deep cut here at the bow with a large hole in here. They do address that directly and say that this key has been tested, proven strength, shear strength tested, and give you the same performance and reliability as any other Everest key, even with that hole. So we're looking at an all-section key blank, and that's going to be naturally milled much thinner than a standard key blank. But obviously, the overall thickness of the key blank is going to be 20% greater, so as to compensate for that. Probably what I guess would be the manufacturing requirement that hole puts there. It obviously makes it quite distinctive from a marketing perspective. They say Everest 29 through-cut technology utilizes a unique process to create the patented Everest 29 undercut design, and they're talking about that groove that's cut right behind there. A side bit milling would not be then cut back or through cut on the back side of it, of the side cut. This is quite unique in that regard. Now the reason that it does so is because there is what is called a check pin, and that's nice because if you're going to try to shim this cylinder open and you don't have the right key blank, that's not going to happen. If you try to impression this lock open without the right key blank, that's not going to happen. You're not going to be able to get this open because what happens is there is actually a pin, what they call a check pin, that's got a little, it might be shaped roughly like this, kind of roughly. Maybe like this. Just use your imagination. Well, what happens is the base down here sits inside of the plug housing. When that key is inserted, the front end of this will engage this little tip and lift it up, so that now the check pin is residing within the space of the cylinder plug itself, lifting it out of the way, so that when the shear line is satisfied and the check pin is lifted, then you can rotate. So really only an Everest 29 is going, with the through cut feature, is going to lift that check pin. That's just the bottom line, how that's going to work. And given the amount of information that's on the internet with how locks work, and given the amount of really intelligent people in the world, the accessibility of information, single shear line locks really ought to be a way of the past. Making things just simply less simple to open without the proper key, it's hard to make an argument to not have it. A check pin or a side bit milling like you'd have in a Primus XP scenario. These are all cylinders that will not only significantly reduce the ability of getting copies of keys cut, but just the casual bypassing of the cylinder is basically defeated, is certainly defeated as well. I have people call me all the time, and the scenario is they're in a condo building. The condo association wants $100 for a lost key. Well, that key is it's a Primus. It's generally a Primus key, and the original Primus is well out of patent protection. But when clients desperately looking for these keys will email me photographs, and I can look at the key and say, there's no way. I'm thinking in my head, there's no way that you're going to get this key blank, but they are intent on not paying $100 for that key blank. Here's what such person faces. The manufacturer has spent millions of dollars to create this system, to create the tooling, and then to market it and put it into the marketplace, so that when a client comes to them and says, I want a key system that will prevent the unit 1912 from going and getting a key cut for the exterior common areas of this condo building, because it's our job to provide security, you can bet that the manufacturers created systems so that that actually is protected. That's why people go to these manufacturers for restricted key systems. And someone with a little bit of knowledge can look at that key blank, me, and say, well, I understand the key blank that you thinking in my head. I understand the key blank that you have. I understand what it would take to bypass that and the ways to do it. But even as an authorized distributor, I can't get my hands on those key blanks. I certainly don't have a lawful way to do it, and I've never invested time into thinking how I might do it unlawfully. And what the casual owner of the condo unit 1912 doesn't realize is it's not cronyism or it's not price gouging. It's the fact that they spent a lot of money for this system. The key blanks, while once it's all said and done, are not certainly $100 in cost. It's used as a deterrent to lose keys. So you don't want to lose keys, and it's a deterrent to give them out to just everybody. I think that's really what the point is. Your brother and sister are coming to visit for 3 weeks, 2 weeks in the summer for vacation. I'm not going to be there. Here's the key. You're going to be a lot less prone to just pass out keys to the common area as a result of this structure, of which I couldn't be happier to be a part of. But we're talking about a key blank that you can purchase because it's an S family. It's not a restricted family. So the restricted families are the same technology, but something's going to be different about it. You can bet, where you can't get that key blank. Or the simple thing is I can't get the key blank, which means I can't sell it to you. So that's where the control is placed right there. Now, I can get the key blank. I can sell it to you if you own that keyway. So if the owner in 1912 calls and says, I need a key cut. Okay, what is it? I don't know. It says Primus on it. Email me photographs. I can look at it and say, that's definitely beyond level 1. That's certainly a restricted key blank. But if you're that condo association and you want to order a box of 50 key blanks, yeah, you can buy those. That's your system. Paperwork is put on file. The factory confirms validity of the paperwork. The order is filled and shipped. Now, back to the Everest 29. That cut-through technology lifts that check pin so that you can happily operate the cylinder. That's the whole point of the Everest 29. The through cut is based on, in my opinion, what they need to get in order to have the manufacturing process. The Everest 29 is both new, with both new construction and retrofit in mind. For new construction, you have the opportunity to define a full spectrum of layered security utilizing Everest 29. You can go with the Primus feature on it, which would give you side bit milling, basically a second shear line, with or without UL 437. UL 437 is a reference to a document, well, it is reference to a document. It's reference to a standard by which a cylinder is defined in terms of being resistant to manipulation, attack, vandalism, picking, drilling, sawing. UL actually has a document. It's called UL 437. Anyone can purchase that document. It's several hundreds of dollars. I looked into buying it because I'd like to read the definitions. But suffice it to say that substantial upgrades are made to the standard cylinder to resist brute force attack. And you can order the Everest 29 with that 437 should you want. For retrofit applications, Everest 29 is made to be integrated into many existing systems. So it's backwards compatible with legacy Everest systems, But your legacy Everest won't work in the Everest 29 because it doesn't have that check pin ability to lift that check pin. That's going to be the problem there. And of course, you can do multiple key sections, which we're going to get into. The S keyway is full size, interchangeable core and conventional core. It's an open keyway, which means that beyond placing an order, there's nothing else that you would need to do to verify that you are authorized to purchase that cylinder or that key blank. And that duplication is done through authorized distributors only, such as us. Everest 29 are backwards compatible with their respective legacy products. The B family, which is small format, the C, which would be the open, and then the D, which would be a full size but a restricted. So small format restricted, open, and then full size interchangeable core, full size or large format restricted. That was B, C, and D. Now it's R, S, and T. And there's one of the links below this video has all that information regarding that. The cut sheet we've looked at, we've talked about the key blank itself. Now, there is a document called Multiplex Family that's there. Now, that really allows you to understand what is an S000. An S000 is an all-section key blank. When you look at the bottom half of that page, you're going to see a row of cylinder plugs, the faces of them. You're going to see S134 all the way through to S345. What does that mean? That means there are 10 different keyways in the S family. When you look at the S134, that stands on its own and can only be operated by the S134 keyway, or key blank. If you look at the S345 on the opposite side, it can only be operated by the S345 key blank. Both of them can be operated by either a multi-section and the all-section, or the S345 can be operated by the all-section only. That bottom row is what is called a multiplex family structure. And what that basically means is there are different keyways in the S family. So each of those 10, this is a bad example because there is no S000 cylinder. It's only a key blank because it's a multi or all-section key blank. But that bottom row are cylinders and key blanks. So you would have an S, let's just look at S145. New master key systems begin here. Now let's look at stock keyway, S123. That's the stock. If you want an Everest 29 open, they're going to send you S123. That's the standard stock keyway for commercial sales. Now you'll notice that above the S123 there are two arrows pointed to it. That means that the S120 and the S230 multi-section keys will actually fit into that cylinder plug. But in that bottom row of 10, you cannot interchange those key blanks from each other. They won't enter the keyway. So the S120 and S230 multi-section blank will operate in that S123. The S200 will operate in that S123. The S000 will operate in that S123. As you go up the hierarchy, the more cylinders can be operated by those multi-section blanks. So an S230 will work the S123, 234, 235, only those three cylinders. The S200 is going to operate a total of 6 cylinders. The S000, this one, the all section, will work all 10 of them. Okay. So, first of all, why would you have different keyways? Well, it's a form of key control, certainly. You can creatively use different keyways to solve problems or to make things more secure rather than not increasing the security over a cylinder. Someone might just order an odd or a less common keyway just because, this master plan development of, 60 condos are all on the S123, but then after the project is done, you decide, well, you know what, I want an S345. I'm good. It's all open keyway, but you've got a little bit of knowledge and you know someone who sells locks, and you want to change that to an S345 or an S245 so that no one's key will enter your cylinder. Okay, you can certainly do that. Would certainly not be a bad idea to prevent keys from not only operating your lock, but even entering the lock. The scenario that I like to think of is in a relatively simple concept is to have an S123 or let's just say S123 in your home, and you've got a typical Chicago bungalow: front door, side door, lower basement door, back door. Okay, that's typical for a bungalow. Then you got a detached garage door, 5 total locks. You could put the S123 on the garage. You could put the S234 on the entire house. Why would you separate the garage? Well, the landscaper needs to have a key to get into the garage, but it would be really cool if his key or her key did not even, while it wouldn't even work the house, it doesn't even enter the cylinder. You could then walk around with the S230, a multi-section blank, and operate all 5 of the locks. That might be an example. I think it would be agreed that it would be a bit inane to do that, but the fact of the matter is, if you have the choice, why wouldn't you set it up that way? I would. From a locksmithing perspective, a multi-section, a multiplex key system would allow me to, and Schlage talks about in the document locksmithing, something rather I call out here, in this, okay, not to get too deep into the woods, or to the weeds, I should say, on how keying is done, but there are theoretically 4,096 possible change keys that can be done on a cylinder like this that will have 6 chambers in it. That's a lot of different keys. Well, when you strip out of there the keys that you wouldn't use, and there are reasons why you wouldn't, they're uncuttable or they're bad key etiquette, you would have an actual number noticeably less than 4,096 different keys. Well, if you had a project, pick a Big Ten university, and you had tens of thousands of doors, literally, you're going to need a lot more than 4,096 theoretical possible key combinations. Okay. What can be done is all of those keys and keying information, the numbers on the keys on that S123 key blank, that entire list can be photocopied and cut onto the S234, and that can be copied and cut onto the S235. So now you don't have 4,096, you have 4,096 times 3. So if you need 10,000 changes, you're going to look into a multiplex system or a different key structure altogether that Schlage could not do in a single keyway scenario because of the limitations of math on how many chambers and how many increments there are in the keying system. That multiplex structure would permit you to use the same cuts on the keys, but when they're a different keyway, it doesn't matter that building 1 has the same, door 1 of building 1 has the same cut on, that has the same numbers as building 2 door 1, but when they're on a different keyway, they won't even enter each other. But then someone's going to walk around with the S230 and be able to operate everything. Well, that's a relatively simple way to think of multiplex, but you can get into the requirement of several tens of thousands of doors. Now you're really dealing with large multiplex systems. Someone who's ordering an S000, all section key blank, and the way that these multi and all section key blanks are accomplished is they are literally simply grooved thinner. There's less material on this key blank, and it is meant and permissible to enter those cylinders, and it does so in such a way that is not advantageous to anyone because there's less material. It's not going to fit into the cylinder plug, into the broaching of the cylinder plug as tightly as it should. There will be more slop. There will be the real possibility of malfunction down the road when the key ultimately does begin to wear. So if someone ordered an all-section key blank, they either have an outrageously huge keying system, or customer walked in and said, I need some key blanks, S family key blanks. Which keyway is it? I have no idea. And the salesman says, I've got the idea. Sell them an all-section key blank. Well, that's no good. The other problem with an all-section key blank is, in that scenario of the 60 condos, now they've got a key blank that will pass regardless of what keyway it is. So all-section should not be used at all unless it's necessary because of the significant disadvantages, which are the fact that it will access any of the S family of keyways, broachings and their cylinder plugs. It is a less secure key blank because it's milled thinner. Okay, it's not going to operate as reliably as it ought to. But there are certainly going to be instances where it's required, where if you've got 20,000 doors and it's an Everest 29 system, or this logic of a multiplex system with an all-section blank, yeah, the chief of maintenance is going to walk around with an all-section key blank because he needs to. His key rings already has 60 keys on it. So that would be reasons for doing so. A simple reason also is you've got a 3-story building. Okay, you put one keyway on the first floor for the architect firm, the law firm gets a different keyway, and then the engineering firm gets a different keyway, your 3 floors. Well, the owner's going to walk around with a multi-section blank. So that's how that is. Moving into the product catalog cut sheet, let's look into the locksmithing document that's here. I would only dig into that if you're a casual viewer of this Everest 29 video. There's no need for you to dig into it, except that you could glisten a little more information about the check pin because it's shown there. But if you don't care how that works, then I would not bother. If you're someone who has to service the material, that document is probably the first one you would look at. They have a depth and spacing chart in the center of that section, which will give you the increments of depths. It will tell you important information about the cutter, dimensional properties that are necessary, the shoulder to first cut, the center to center cuts that are required, the root depths of the keys, the maximum adjacent cut specification of the system. It's a Schlage system, which means it's 2-step in a 15 thousandths increment. The part numbers of their pins and springs, driver pins, master pins. How to upgrade your ProLock Blue Punch if you need to cut these keys, because it will need to be upgraded so that the jaw grabs the S family of key blanks properly, because there's so much less material, or the profile of the material is physically changed. Not that there's less material, it's just physically changed. Okay, so I won't go into detailed explanation of this, but if you need to service the stuff, dive into that first. They talk about having a setup key that's there, and it will help you keep your check pin in place, to keep it captive within a key blank when you are keying or master keying your pin, your cylinder plug. You can load a 999 key blank into it that will keep the check pin captured. You can load your pins into it, insert that plug, and lock it, and assume that everything is correct and you're in good shape. These cylinders that have these side bit cuts, sidebar millings, these check pins, these additional levels of security, they're not odd, do require more time to pin them because you've got these additional moving parts to consider, and that setup key allows you to, it certainly allows you to operate the servicing of the cylinder when master keying. There is discussion of how to shim the cylinder, which you can read. That's right before the depth and spacing chart that's there. Okay. Now, there's nothing else to say about this. Why would you order this? Because you'd want to keep people from going to the big box store and cutting copies of your keys. That's a real problem. But at the same time, you don't want to outrageously inconvenience yourself by having a restricted key blank. So you could go from getting the key cut at any place in the world to not so, but still being able to have control over it. So if you've got rental property, you could easily consider a system like this because of the additional level of difficulty of getting a key cut. While it's not restricted, yeah, you can bet that you very likely might have to buy a box of 50. Well, the tenant has lost a couple of keys, needs to get a couple of keys cut, but oh my gosh, now I have to buy a box of 50? That's not the idea. And with an all-section key blank like this, they're generally not kept in stock in a situation of Everest 29. So yeah, you could be very likely forced with looking at a large quantity of keys that you would have to buy, potentially. But at the same time, your distributor would likely keep inventory and then be able to sell you only the quantity necessary because, again, it's not restricted. Okay. Finally, there is a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the Schlage products that we sell, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. Any questions on the Schlage? This is their part number 35-270 S000 all-section Everest 29 S family key blank, or any all section, or any other Schlage product. Please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.